Well, we are halfway through the NFL regular season, which means it's time to talk about the bad teams. Grossi Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to an episode of Packcast, the podcast where you don't have to be a Packers fan, but it sure does up. I'm your host, Tom. I guess this is the powerless rankings, huh? Grossi. And today, yes, we are going to be talking about the top 5, or I should say bottom 5 worst teams in the league. Now, of course, the Dolphins played last night, and I was going to record this video before Thursday Night Football, but then I said, let's wait and see how the Dolphins play. And I'm glad I did, because they are definitely on this list. And when compiling this list, I'm taking a bunch of things. One, of course, is going to be their records, how many wins they have, taking a look at their offensive statistics, their defense statistics, and also their future outlook. Because there's some teams who might be bad right now, but their outlook is looking a little bit more positive as we get down the lane, and vice versa. And so to start things off, we're going to do an honorable mention, or I guess a dishonorable mention, starting off with the Cincinnati Bengals. And listen, the Bengals this season has not gone the way that they thought things were going to go, because originally the Bengals were expected to be a competitive team. You did worry about their defense, but they did re-sign Trey Hendrickson at least until the end of the season. And on offense, they got Jamar Chase, they got T. Higgins back, and as long as Joe Burrow was to be healthy, they should be just fine. Unfortunately, Joe Burrow got injured almost immediately, and it has wrecked the Cincinnati Bengals. And while they were able to win a game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, they just lost to the Jets to give them their first win. And when you take a look at their stats, things are not going well in Cincinnati. Taking a look at their stats, the Bengals ranked 21st in points per game scored, 28th in their rushing attack, and 14th in passing. And so, of course, besides not having Joe Burrow, which is leading to some of these terrible stats, Chase Brown's production has to be incredibly disappointing for Bengals fans. I know after last season, it was highly implied that he was going to have a breakout year. And while he has been better in the past few weeks, things are not going well for that entire offense. Now, of course, I'm not going to bury the Bengals here because they are missing their franchise quarterback. However, when you're not looking at the offense, you got to take a look at the defense. And that, woof. They are 32nd in points allowed per game. They're ranked 31st in rushing defense and in passing defense, meaning they are the second to worst defense in rushing and passing in the entirety of the NFL. And that is something, even though their offense is struggling and it could lead to your defense being on the field longer, that is something that Joe Burrow is not going to be able to fix. And so while the Bengals are not the worst team in the league, and I don't think they're in the bottom 5, they get a dishonorable mention because that defense is atrocious this year. Now pair that with Joe Burrow being out, and you just have a bad football team. And of course, looking at their future outlook, Trey Hendrickson is probably going to be gone after this season. Joe Burrow returning in December. Who knows if he's even going to get playing time, because I think the Bengals might be eliminated by that point. They're at 3-5 right now. So they have a lot of things that they have to do and try and save their season. It may be too little too late. The good news is they're not a bottom 5 team. The bad news is Kitty is going out this season. The other dishonorable mention, we're not going to have to go very far, staying within the AFC North. You got the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland. Yeah, things are ugly. The only thing that is saving them and not having them be a bottom 5 team is their defense. But right now they're sitting at 2-6, and that offense is not good. They rank 30th in points per game scored. They have the 26th worst rushing attack, and they are 29th in passing offense. Now, the good news for the Cleveland Browns, besides their defense, is that Judkins seems to be a pretty damn good running back. And so as he continues to develop, I think that's going to eventually be a strong point for this Cleveland offense. And of course, with Cleveland, their number one issue is they don't have a quarterback right now. Dillon Gabriel, you've seen a small sample size of him, and he's okay. Shedeur Sanders is waiting in the wings. They already traded Joe Flacco. Deshaun Watson is probably not going to play for Cleveland ever again. And yeah, they just need to figure out who's their franchise quarterback is going to be, and these stats are going to get better. The problem is, I have very little faith for Cleveland to find their next franchise quarterback. And unless Dillon Gabriel is going to remarkably improve, or Shedeur Sanders is that guy, they may be visiting the draft once again, even after drafting multiple quarterbacks this past April. Again, taking a look at their defense, which is saving them them here. They are 18th in points allowed per game. They have the 12th best run defense and the 8th best passing defense. So again, they're top 15 in both rushing and passing defense, which is definitely a huge plus. The problem is that they just don't have the offense to go along with it. So again, while they're not a bottom 5 team, they do need to figure out on offense. They need to figure out their QB position. And until they do, they're going to keep on getting dishonorable mentions. And then finally, for the dishonorable mention, you got the New York Giants. Now, the Giants, I'm giving them a break here. They just lost Cam Skattebo. They already didn't have Malik Neighbors. And heading into this season, I think expectations were pretty low for the Giants. And when you're looking at outlook, Jackson Dart seems to be a pretty solid quarterback, and that is definitely some good news. But the statistics that they're putting up this year are not very good. And honestly, the most surprising thing is that it's coming from the defense and not the offense, because the offense this year is not awful. They do rank 22nd in points per game scored, which is not great, but they have the 11th best rushing attack in the NFL. That's probably going to go down with Skattebo out now, and the 13th best passing attack. And with a rookie quarterback, and before that, you had Russell Wilson, I think that's the most unexpected element of these 2025 Giants. The fact that Jackson Dart can look pretty good, or they had a rookie running back. I know Tyrone Tracy was banged up, but now he's going to get the majority of the carries. But the fact that they were able to have a functioning offense without their top wide receiver, their offensive line is definitely shaky. Hey, I think the Giants deserve some credit there. The problem is their defense, not so good. They rank 26th in points allowed per game. They are the 30th worst run defense, and they rank 26th in passing defense. And so that defense, which has been torn apart over the seasons, they've been trying to add to it, whether it's in the draft with guys like Tyler Nubin or in free agency as well. It just hasn't lived up to the hype, because I thought their defensive line was going to be really damn good this year, but it is definitely lacking when it comes to stopping the pass or the run. The good news, like I said, for the Giants, I think they do have some franchise players on that squad. Cam Skattebo will be healthy for next season, and I think he's a good running back. Malik Neighbors is one of the best young wide receivers in the NFL, and if Jackson Dart can continue this trajectory and should be pretty good, hey, maybe they're a couple seasons away from the Giants actually being contenders. But as of right now, they get a dishonorable mention with an asterisk because they have all those injuries, but they still find themselves on the bad list. And so now it's time to get into the bottom 5 of the NFL. Starting off with number 5, the 5th worst team. You got the New Orleans Saints, which, hey, you're not number 1. That is definitely... It's something. The Saints heading into this season, yeah, expectations, another team, incredibly low. Didn't know if they were going to do a quarterback, as now they're going to be going with Shook instead of Rattler. And Rattler, besides his last game, has actually looked pretty serviceable as a quarterback. It has led them to a 1-7 record. They've only won 1 game. And both on offense and defense, things are not looking good. On the offensive side of things, they are 29th in points per game. They have the 23rd ranked rushing attack, and they're 15th in passing. So middle of the road for passing offense, which makes sense. As we just mentioned, Spencer Rattler, he's done a pretty decent job. Unfortunately, their run game is not doing well, and they're not putting up points. Throw on top of that in the NFC South, that division is winnable. Of course, you have the Buccaneers, who are leading things right now, but they have a number of injuries. The Falcons, who knows what's going on with them. And the Panthers, they are not in the bottom 5 this year, which, a huge congratulations. But the Saints, they can win the NFC South, but they need to pour a ton of talent onto that team. Now, they've been trying to fix their books for the past couple of years and trying to get underneath the salary cap and try to just make a viable squad. And I think just year after year with them having some misses in the draft, they drafted O-line once again to try and give some protection to whoever is going to be throwing the ball. And the lack of franchise QB, it's finally just caught up to them. I really like guys like Shaheed and Chris Olave, but if you don't have a guy that can get them the ball on a consistent basis, and their defense, which talking about that, which is also not good, you got a bad squad. Taking a look at their defense, 25th in points allowed per game, 23rd in run defense, and 13th in passing defense. So again, their secondary is doing a pretty nice job. They're in the top half of the NFL when it comes to passing defense. But again, when they're in bottom of points allowed per game and ultimately their run defense can't really do anything, it's just not a great squad right now. And for the Saints, their short-term future, things are a little bit murky. They have to get an injection of talent, whether it's in free agency or the draft, soon, and that could definitely help things. But as some guys are getting older, like Alvin Kamara, and with that uncertainty at the QB position, unless Tyler Shough goes out there and shocks the world, they may be having to look for yet another quarterback. And again, they still have to address all these issues, including on the defense. And so for right now, the Saints are the 5th worst team in the league with 1 win. Hopefully things work out with Shough, because that would make things significantly better on offense. But until then, yeah, they're bad. Number 4, you got the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins. Yeah, things are really not good in Miami. When you talk about the context of heading into this season, the big question was, can Tua stay healthy? The good news is Tua's been healthy. The bad news, still not playing well. You look at this past Sunday when they were able to knock off the Falcons, which they looked their best that they have the entire season. Tua threw 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. The defense played well. You thought maybe they could potentially turn a corner here. Unfortunately, they just played last night, and in the second half, they got blown out by the Baltimore Ravens, and things are not looking good. Now, the good news for Dolphins fans is they finally fired longtime GM Chris Grier, which will give Dolphins fans at least a little bit of freedom. But the problem is that they're likely going to fire Mike McDaniel at the end of the year. You have a question mark about Tua, who you gave a whole lot of money to. Their defense is bad. And yeah, you put all those things together, and it just seems like a dysfunctional organization. They're currently sitting at 2-7, and just a reminder that the stats I'm about to give you, they have played 9 games. They haven't had their bye week yet, and also they played an additional game than all these other teams that are on this list. And so when they're ranking really low in defense, just keep in mind they have an extra game there. Taking a look at offense, they rank 25th in points per game scored, which is not great after 9 games. They're in the middle of the road. They rank 15th in rushing attack, and that's been pretty good. Devin Achane has been a bright spot on that offense. And looking at their passing yards, they actually rank in the top 10. They're ranking at 10 right now. Again, this is through 9 games, so those numbers are going to be a little inflated. And so you look at that offense and you go, okay, it's not the best, right? Their rushing attack and their passing attack is good. At least they're putting up a bunch of yards. But when they're ranking 25th in points scored per game, there is a problem. And you saw that last night in the red zone, that they just can't convert yardage into points. And taking a look at their defense, oh, things are real bad. In points per game allowed, they are ranking 28th. Again, this is with 9 games, so you got to include the Ravens game from last night. They are ranked dead last in run defense at 32nd and 22nd in passing defense. And taking a look at that defense, there is just very little to write about. Things are going very poorly. Whether it's just been through age, whether it's been guys getting traded or let go. Yeah, things have not worked out for the Miami Dolphins, especially when they can't get a pass rush going. They definitely cannot stop the run at all, and teams can just run all over them, and that has shown to be effective this entire season. Throw on top of that, their future outlook is not good. With likely to be their loss of their head coach, they're going to have to hire a head coach, a GM, figure out what they're going to do with Tua. Who knows what's going on with Tyreek Hill? And you throw all that together, and yeah, this just seems like a franchise that is in jeopardy right now. With no long-term solutions in front of them, they not only have to hire the right GM to build that roster back out, on top of that, they've got to hope that the next head coach is able to do something with that squad. They had their window when they traded for Tyreek Hill, in which they looked like they were going to be a super team, but unfortunately, the team with the longest playoff drought looks like to be continuing that streak this season, and so because of that, they rank at number 4, and for the future of the Dolphins, it doesn't look pretty. Number 3, you got the New Jersey Jets. The Jets, they're coming in here after getting their first win over the Cincinnati Bengals. Justin Fields played pretty solid. Breece Hall had his breakout game finally. And so some of the stats you're going to see, like their rushing attack, are actually going to be pretty darn good. And unfortunately for the Jets, while they've been competitive in a lot of these games, they're just not able to close them out. And on top of that, their defense is really not playing well. Not only have they just won 1 game this season, but they're ranking 23rd in points scored per game. However, they do have the second best rushing attack in the league, and so that's something to be happy about. However, they rank dead last in passing yards. They are 32nd. And Justin Fields, listen, I don't think he's going to be the answer in New Jersey. Even when they signed him, I didn't think he was going to be the answer. The fact that he was a mobile QB could add at least a little something to their repertoire, as I know their offensive line has not been good as of late, but they need to find a franchise quarterback back there. They tried to do it with Aaron Rodgers, making that big-time trade when they had a really good defense. That absolutely fell apart, and they just seem like they are in full-blown rebuild mode now. And taking a look at their defense, I think that's the most disappointing thing because this defense has fallen off a cliff from where they were just a couple seasons ago. They're ranking 29th in points allowed per game. They are 27th in run defense and 16th in pass defense. So all that secondary is not the worst and it's still middle of the road. Their run defense is really darn bad and they are allowing a ton of teams to score points on them. And so you put all that together, yeah, it's a big yikes for the Jets. They took their big swing just like the Cleveland Browns did, and they traded for their quarterback to hopefully get him over the hump and win a Super Bowl, and that did not work out. Now, to their credit, it wasn't all their fault for that first season as Aaron Rodgers got hurt within the first 4 snaps of his Jets career, but last year was awful. The offense couldn't really do anything. The defense had taken a step back. They fired their head coach, and now we're sitting here with a new regime, a new quarterback who is not going to last very long as their owner is bad-mouthing him to the public and media. And yeah, the Jets, it unfortunately feels like they are the same old Jets. Now, a couple of drafts down the road, maybe they'll be able to rebuild that defense, but question marks with Breece Hall. Are you going to give him a big contract? Garrett Wilson's still hanging out there. They just need somebody to throw him the ball. And oh yeah, going and getting a young franchise quarterback. Those are the next steps for the Jets. We'll see how long Aaron Glenn is going to stick around with the Jets and see if the ownership is actually going to let him rebuild this team in his image. But as of right now, they're the 3rd worst team in the league. And yeah, JETS, just end the suffering. Then the 2nd worst team in the NFL, you got the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders. Oh boy, we were hoping that we'd be talking about this team as a potential wild card team, right? With Geno Smith coming in, Pete Carroll coming over, drafting Ashton Genty because they had no run game at all last season. But unfortunately, things have not been going well in Vegas. And you look at that offense, it is pitiful. They rank 31st in all 3 categories we've been talking about. They are 2nd to worst in points per game scored. They have the 2nd worst rushing attack in the league. You just drafted Ashton Genty. Oh, and they have the 31st worst passing attack as well. So yeah, that offense is pitiful. Their offensive line is bad. Geno Smith is throwing turnovers. They can't get Genty going, and that offense has really just been anemic all season. And so that is incredibly disappointing. And when you take a look at their defense, things aren't the worst, but they're definitely not great. They ranked 24th in points allowed per game. They ranked 8th in run defense, so that has been a nice plus. They're top 10 there. And they ranked 14th in pass defense. So again, just a little bit better than average. But again, with a terrible offense and you're allowing teams to score points, the Raiders, yeah, it has been a very frustrating season. I thought Geno Smith was going to be a stopgap there, but I thought he was going to be able to elevate that team at least to where they were last season. That has not been the case. And the most frustrating thing is the fact that their running attack is still that bad. They were ranked dead last year, and they've only gone up 1 spot. And they spent a top 10 draft pick to go and get the best running back in the draft. You put all that together, yeah, it is not a good combination. On top of that, every other team in the AFC West is competitive. I think it's a 3-way race to try and get first place. So that makes this look even worse right now. And so because of that, the Raiders rank the 2nd worst team in the league, not only because of their record at 2-5, but their offense is just really damn bad this year. And so because of that, Raiders fans continue to suffer. And they come in at number 2. Bringing us to number 1, the worst team in the NFL right now. You got the Tennessee Titans. And you might be thinking, Tom, listen, they got Cam Ward. And I'm going to be very complimentary of Cam Ward because I really like Cam Ward. I think he is just on an abysmal team right now. But let's take a look at the Tennessee Titans. 1 is the number of games that they have won this season as they have a 1-7 record.
I mean, if we keeping a buck right now, we ass.
Taking a look at their offense, oh, big yikes. They are ranked dead last in points per game scored on offense, dead last in rushing attack, and ranked 30th in passing attack. So nice job, Cam Ward. You elevated them from being the worst team, potentially, to now only the 2nd worst when it comes to their passing attack. They have no run game. Cam Ward is getting sacked a cajillion times almost every single Sunday. Their passing game, they got no freaking weapons. And again, Cam Ward barely has any time to throw the football. So that offense is the worst in the NFL.
We ass.
Then taking a look at their defense. With some of these teams, you've had their defense be able to save them. Oh, maybe they're top 5 somewhere or top 10. Yeah, not the case here in Tennessee. They are ranked 30th in points allowed per game, 28th in run defense, and 20th in pass defense. And so while that secondary is passable, it is also getting passed on a lot as they are in the bottom third of the league. And so, yeah, things are not going well at all for the Tennessee Titans. Their defense is really not good. Their offense is absolutely atrocious. Oh, and on top of that, they just fired their head coach a few weeks ago as well. And so it just seems like the Titans team is a rudderless ship right now. They have no direction whatsoever. But the good news is that I think Cam Ward can be the guy. They just need to do an overhaul of that offense. They need to give him a run game that he can rely on. They need to give him a whole lot more protection. I know they spent a whole lot in free agency, but that has not seemed to work out so well. And so, yeah, the Titans are currently sitting here at the bottom. And while I do have a higher outlook for them in the future because they might have their franchise quarterback, though we need to see him, I don't know, with some talent around him, the results that they put on the field this year are not good. Throw on top of that, their front office has been a mess for years. It feels like they just really never got over that A.J. Brown trade. Treylon Burks didn't work out after all of that. And it just feels like after years of not drafting well, not getting a whole lot of talent and depth, this is where we're left right now. Again, if they're able to have some good free agencies and good drafts and build around Cam Ward, if he's the guy, I have a much higher outlook on them than a team maybe like the Jets who need to find their franchise quarterback, or the Raiders, or hell, even the Dolphins, because the Dolphins right now are stuck paying Tua and they're going to have to move on to another quarterback at some point. But right now for the Titans, just statistically, they are the worst team in the league. They are tied for the worst record in football. And so because of that, they rank at number 1 at being bad. And so just to recap the worst team, you got the Titans, then the Raiders, the Jets, the Dolphins, and the Saints. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. Panthers! I feel like it's been a while. You're not on this list. You're kind of ranking middle of the road statistically, and I have some faith in Bryce Young, so hopefully you can stay off of this list. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. Who should be on this list? Who should be off of it? Why should the Vikings be the worst team in football? Which I totally agree, by the way. Let me know what you think. You know, I saw me at TomGrossiComedy.com, and a big shout and thank you to all the Patreon and YouTube members for supporting this channel. And thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi. And as always, go Pack Go.